Hey there.
Good evening.
Look what's going on. This is craziness.
This is a really exciting show tonight.
It's a very big night.
This is a big night. We've kind of been like massaging our way to this kind of like this getting the show ready, and I feel like this is a big moment.
We've been tilling the ground.
Yeah.
And preparing the way.
Right.
And I think the way has been prepared for.
Well, prepared or not, it's happening.
The big kahuna.
We have the third brother. How else do you put it? We have,
or he might be the first brother.
Well, in fact, actually, that's how I posted it on social. Was that he's brother number one? I mean, he's the first one.
Primo.
Yeah.
Primo. Okay. Should we welcome him?
Let's wipe without further ado.
All right. Yeah.
Hey.
Here.
Hey, welcome.
Good to see you.
Should we tell everyone that we're actually in the same room, the three of us?
We are in the and in honor of that occasion, I don't know if you can see what I have over here.
Yes.
You can see in the background there.
I see. Booze.
Yeah, a bottle of champagne.
A little toast.
To welcome you to the show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're very excited. This is actually a dual purpose celebration because some very exciting stuff happened for Tertio. If Primo, Secundi, and Tertio. Some very exciting stuff happened for Tertio today too. So this champagne is in honor of your joining the show. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your excitement?
Well, I can't actually go into too many details.
Oh!
But hey, Opa, a project I've been working on for a while. My movie looks like it has some thunder behind it. Finally, there's some nice activity behind the scenes. So I'm hopeful to be able to talk about it in depth.
So this is for you, and this is for you.
Well, I see. Cheers.
And this is for me.
Cheers, Matthew.
And since I don't like champagne, I'm drinking beer also. So we opened the champagne just as a
just for show,
ceremonial. It was a really expensive bottle of champagne we're throwing out, just so you know.
You can use that for some recipe, I'm sure.
Yeah. There's some flat champagne instant pot recipe that I'll be.
You look great, Adam, and I'm glad everybody's wearing black T-shirts today. For some reason, we all got that memo and showed up. It's too.
And it's amazing we all look exactly the same as we do in this photograph here. We haven't
for all of us.
We haven't changed a bit.
Not at all. So just so if anybody happens to be watching, Adam, you're on the West Coast right now. Matthew and I are on the East Coast. How's the air quality today?
The air quality is improving, and the biggest fire that's been raging near us, they turned a corner today, so they've got it. I guess last I read, they've got it like 40% contained now, which after weeks of not being able to contain it at all is a big improvement. Hopefully.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's felt like things. I know there are crews that are still fighting like mad, but it's felt like things are getting back to normal in terms of just being able to breathe.
Right.
I quoted an old Johnny Carson joke recently about the air quality. I said, I don't want to say the smog was bad yesterday, but at one point I took a deep breath and I chipped a tooth.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's the first Carson joke I ever remembered as a kid hearing ever. Yeah. That was when I realized he was kind of funny. He had his moments.
Yeah.
the Burbank air quality jokes.
Yeah, good time.
How's the air quality where you are, Matthew? Is it okay?
In Westchester County,
Mhm.
the air quality is awesome. Trees, I'd forgotten what green trees look like. It's beautiful up here. But I was down in Philly yesterday. That was interesting.
What were you doing down there?
Spent a day down in Philly visiting my son
That's right.
and had ramen for the first time in 6 months. That was pretty exciting.
Nice.
I mean, not packaged ramen, actual out at a restaurant ramen.
Real ramen.
So, I guess we've got a movie to talk about tonight, huh?
We do. I mean, we can catch up anytime. We don't have to do that on a live broadcast.
You don't need to subject people to our musings
about real things.
Yeah, about real things.
About completely fake things.
Yeah, let's talk about fake stuff. So, Carlito's Way, 1993.
Yep.
And you want to take us away with some historical perspective?
Well, I mean, you mean talking to me?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We have to make clear who we're talking to now.
I don't know now who you are. What's happening? Yes, so we're talking about this movie Carlito's Way from 1993. And this is a kind of, I would call it it's definitely a gangster drama. I feel like it's got equal measures drama and kind of typical gangster stuff in it. 70s style New York gangster saga, starring Al Pacino and Sean Penn, Penelope Ann Miller, and directed by Brian DePalma, who was coming in after what I remember to be kind of a slump. DePalma, who I am becoming the kind of fan who admits he's a fan of De Palma now, because it's safer to say that. Actually, I don't know if it's safer to say that because a lot of his films are considered kind of, a little bit rough on the modern eyes. But he's an amazing filmmaker, I think, and he was coming out of a slump from what I remember, because it was after, I think, Casualties of War was very mixed on. People were mixed on that movie. Bonfire of the Vanities was a famous catastrophe production that I think may have almost bankrupted a studio or something. Like, it was one of those huge famous nightmare productions. And then
all because they replaced our dad in it.
That was a weird part of it. Yeah. So De Palma needed to hit, and he came through with this, and apparently the movie had been offered to, which was interesting. Abel Ferrara was offered this movie before Brian De Palma was, which is really interesting. You can see where he was at that time, because Ferrara was a real indie guy. Been interesting to see what he did with that movie. But anyway, this is Carlito's Way. That's what it is. Now, had you seen it before, Adam?
I had seen it when it came out. Yeah. But hadn't revisited it since then. So it was interesting seeing it again after 27 years.
I was the same way. And had you seen it before, Matthew?
I had not seen it.
You had never seen it?
I had never seen it.
What's your excuse? What happened?
It's a very sad story, actually.
Well, I think everybody would love to hear that.
That's our show.
I had kind of I knew Penelope Ann Miller when I was in law school.
Oh no! No!
And I knew her roommate. And I actually I helped Penelope Ann Miller. I wouldn't say that I coached her, but when she was auditioning for Biloxi Blues, I read
for Broadway or for
Broadway for the original production of Biloxi Blues. I worked on the scene with her, and I wasn't coaching her, but I was, reading with her, helping her get ready for her audition.
Right.
And
sad. You didn't say it was tragic. This is starting to feel heartbreaking.
It's getting better and better.
it gets heartbreaking because I think that there was I don't want to be out of line. I'm pretty sure Penelope's not watching the show, and if she does, she probably doesn't care. But it was a long time ago. But I suspect that there might have been, we were both young, in the city, and
why wouldn't some
maybe a little possibility there. But I was foolish enough to be more interested in the roommate.
Oh, this just took a different turn. I didn't know we were this.
So basically, then as the years went by, I would just say to myself, "You're an idiot."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's another story of bad choices that your brother has made.
I'm sorry. That's
Yeah. So
things could have been a different whole life in a way. You don't know. Yeah.
There's an open heart for every light on Broadway.
I still don't understand why you didn't see the movie.
Yeah. What does that have?
Bitterness. Bitterness.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like, you just didn't want to put yourself through that.
Put myself through the heartbreak of.
Yeah, but this must have been. I mean, she. What year are you talking? How many years before Carlito's wedding?
This was 84, 85.
Oh, years before Carlito's wedding.
Yeah,
way before.
Yeah, I should have been over it by then.
Well, I'm interested if things changed for you, Adam, and in this viewing, or if you felt similarly, or what you thought of the movie when you first. What did you think of it when it came out?
Watching it this time, a lot of the same things came up for me. I think, if anything, I have a deeper appreciation for the movie now than I did when I first saw it. But I had a lot of questions about the film when I saw it the first time that I also have to admit still remain for me. And I mean, anything we say about this, or anything I say about this for the rest of the evening, is, I have to preface it by saying that everyone involved with this film I have tremendous respect for. I think Brian DePalma is a great director, and the cast is just amazing, and Pacino's a genius, and yet there was always something about this movie that I felt was strangely conceived in certain ways, and I still felt that watching it this time. We can get into it as we go.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I had a very similar. I think I had a very similar reaction. I actually, when it came out, I wasn't as much a fan of the genre as I am now. So it really wasn't in my wheelhouse when it came out, and so I think there were things about it that I remember just not getting with until kind of, and I think I've seen a lot of movies since then and fallen in love with, some of the movies of this period and some of the gangster movies of this period in a real way, and I understand them more. And I don't know, older person seeing it got a lot more out of it than I was anticipating. I'm like you. I mean, unlike you, I don't think I'm going to work with some of the people in this movie. I might be freer with what I say, but I know I generally do try to keep it very, very positive, and there's a lot of positive stuff to say about it for me. I found myself really moved by it. I got to say, like, if the criteria is, does a movie impact me on an emotional level? Do I walk away, feeling something kind of in my gut, like a new understanding about a kind of a person, or even just somehow something about it making me have an emotional reaction? And I had that with this movie, not big time. I wasn't crying. All right. I wasn't upset, but I was.
You can tell us.
Crying, Tony.
I was kind of moved. So
I was too. I thought that the first scene between Pacino and Penelope Ann Miller, where they're reunited and they're in that restaurant.
Mhm.
I mean that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, actually, and I was really touched by that scene. There was something about the chemistry between the two of them, and a sense of the history between the two of them, and the way in which we become aware of the fact that he broke her heart, by her by saying, you said you were never going to break my heart. But there was something so plaintive about both of them in that, and I thought it was beautifully done.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true. I was thinking too about well, these maybe are more topics of discussion, but is this maybe the last great Pacino performance before it kind of turned into, he kind of became a brand of a certain kind of thing? And I say that out of a lot of respect, man. And I've seen a lot of movies since that he's been good in, but I feel like this is the end of a kind of a Pacino era almost. Like, I don't know, maybe that's misguided, but
I actually think that he's in a weird way, I feel almost just the opposite. I feel like this was one of the films in which I felt like he was. There are things about his performance in this that I'm confused by, and again, I think Al Pacino knows more about acting and film acting than I'll ever even begin to approach knowing. But I'm such a huge fan of his that because of that, I'm confused by this performance in certain ways, starting even with the fact that I feel like he's playing a Puerto Rican guy from New York, and he sounds like a black guy from New Orleans through the whole film.
There's weird choices here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does bring up the question that things that if we look at this movie with today's sensibility, the question about an Italian playing a Puerto Rican versus a Russian Jew playing a Puerto Rican. Right? Which our dad did in Poppy. So, which is more appropriate? Who should be playing Puerto Ricans, Italians or Russian Jews? It's really something that needs to be debated, I think.
Yeah.
Neither one is going to happen anymore. I
think those days are over.
So what was your general takeaway, Matthew, not having seen it the first?
Not having seen it, I had a thought right near the very beginning, and I don't know, I certainly don't know that this is true, but right at the very beginning, there was something about his makeup and the way it was shot where I thought to myself, oh, this is an opera. And I started watching the movie through that lens. And because of watching it through that lens, I completely went along for the ride and fell in love with it. Yeah. I pretended I was watching a gangster movie at the Met. And then that was even confirmed when Lakme comes in the first scene in the rain, when he's watching her dance, and they play the Lakme aria, which I think is one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever. And then the continuing use of music throughout the movie in ways that supported the story, like where was it? When Matt Penn goes into the bathroom with Stephanie and they play "Rock the Boat."
Right. Okay.
Sean Penn. Did I say? Who did I say?
Matt Penn.
Matt Penn with Sean Penn. Right. When they're about to when he's about to meet Viggo Mortensen, who plays Laline, whose crippled because he was stabbed in prison in the back, and they're playing the song that's playing is The Backstabbers. I mean, it's just continually music supporting in almost a corny way what's happening on screen. And
but You Are So Beautiful, the Joe Cocker singing so beautiful in their love scene.
Yeah. It's a big sentimental movie. And, hey, Mark Aliotto, hi there. It's Alana and Mark's iPad. Thank you for. Hey, what's up, Mark? Thanks for joining. Yeah, I think that's so true, man. I kind of feel like that about all the De Palma movies. Really, it's like that's the key to a lot of his stuff is that it's opera. It really is opera at a very big level, and he's using color. You could make parallels to Giallo and the Italian kind of horror movies with, the use of color and extreme backgrounds and stuff. But it's also very theatrical and like opera also. And
completely uninterested in naturalism, which it takes a little getting used to, especially. I mean, for me as a viewer, I was so oriented towards sort of the films that would convince you that you were seeing reality, and then inevitably with the passage of time, even those films that seemed like they had totally caught the grit and authenticity, you realize 10, 20 years later that they were slaves to the tropes of the time in their own way, but they had just convinced they were real.
Sure.
And then other filmmakers just don't seem to care about that. And their stuff stands the test of time oftentimes better.
And then it makes you it makes me sadly realize how much I've fallen prey to the tropes of the time throughout my life, different decades of my life, thinking that, disregarding a certain film because I thought another film was cooler or was, the cool movie to like at that time or had, the mojo at that time. It's like, I look at Carlito's Way and I see so much artistry in it that I see lacking in a lot of much more naturalistic, realistic movies that were, maybe cooler back then. I forget how Carlito's Way was received. Do you remember what did other actors think about the movie when it came out? Do you remember?
I think I don't think a lot of people felt it was De Palma's best, but it definitely became one of his cult films for sure. But I also I'm not a scholar on that time, so I don't know for sure. That was just my impression at the time. That I don't think it was considered one of his, and I don't think it was one of his most successful films either. The writer of the film, David, I don't know how to pronounce
David Cope or Cape or Cope. I don't know how to.
He's one of the top 10 most successful screenwriters all time.
Well, he wrote the paper. He wrote the paper, which we did last week with Amelia.
And I was in the bookstore yesterday and just happened to see this.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And said, "Wow, okay, I'm going to pick that up and give it a read because we're talking about his movie tonight."
Yeah.
It was Indiana Jones and the Crystal, the Crystal Temple or something.
Well, he also wrote Jurassic Park. And Spider-Man.
That was a good movie.
Mission Impossible, and I mean, he's one of the biggest writers out there.
Jurassic Park came out the same year as Carlito's Way, so he had a good year that year.
Holy God, you're right. Wow, look at that.
Wow. And there's similarities between Pacino's performance and the T-Rex, so you can see themes there.
He felt he was more Velociraptor.
Okay.
Look at the way he moved in the subway and everything.
That's true.
I'm gonna go on the record. I'm gonna go to bat for this performance just because I'm just gonna do it. I agree. I think there were some really weird missteps. Casting him in the first place is still. I mean, under the lens of today, choices like that really do feel weird now, and I'm glad that they do. And it feels jarring to see somebody try to do that.
Well, especially with so many Puerto Rican people, Latins in the movie.
The movie is littered. I mean, everybody in it is
everybody except him.
Everybody is amazing and seems well. I don't know about Viggo being that Viggo Mortensen actually that authentic.
No, okay, not him, but
great performance, whatever. I'm just gonna say the same.
Yeah, but he's not Latin. Okay.
Yeah.
And in jail.
What?
The backstory was he had to become Latin in jail. It was the only way he gets involved.
There was no other choice.
Yeah.
I think that notwithstanding, I feel that I'm looking at the list here and I'm feeling like after Carlito's Way with Pacino, we've got amazing things, of course, but we're kind of like, he had just done Scent of a Woman and he won. And then I think he went back to Carlito's Way to kind of like, I got to finish off this saga, of gangsterisms and go back to Scarface Town with DePalma and do this and finalize it. And then he went on to do then he did Heat. And I felt like Heat, as cool as that movie is, and I love watching him, I feel like he just decided to do a different kind of Al Pacino at that point. And I feel like he kind of decided to stay in that mode for a while. Donnie Brasco's good, but I feel like Carlito's Way belongs in there more with Serpico and Dog Day than it does with the later stuff. And it's kind of a mess in a way, but his heart was in it. I feel like, and I got some feels out of that performance. So even if it's wrong and it shouldn't have happened, I gotta say he did a nice job with it.
What about some of the other performances in the film?
Oh my God! Every New York actor, everybody! Oh my God!
How great is John Leguizamo in that film?
John Leguizamo,
unbelievable,
jumps off the screen.
So incredibly great.
The young John Ortiz, I want to give a shout out to.
Yeah.
I forgot that John Ortiz was in this movie, and I've worked with John twice on The Americans, and then also on a show called Rake, that was a short-lived show on CBS. But he's great in it. Although that did bring up a question for me in the movie, for sure, which is he makes such a big. Carlito makes such a big deal about the fact that his aunt is waiting for them to come over for dinner, right?
Right.
He wants to make one quick stop and see his friends, and then he gets his throat slit, and he never goes. We never see the rest of that story. He doesn't have to go and explain to the aunt.
Yeah. That would be the Scorsese version, where they'd go to the aunt's house and be like, "Listen, sorry about dinner."
Yeah, and Scorsese's mom would play the aunt.
Yeah.
But I will have the plantains that you prepared for the evening.
Yeah, but
also play. Okay, well, but design wise, the storytelling happens so much in camera and with art direction for me in this movie too, that. Once they enter that bar, which is it's heralded by the entrance of this muscle car, which you see. It's one of the most gorgeous, tricked out cars you've ever seen. Fast as hell, and it's really bright, popping colors, and it pulls up in front of this club in this really kind of creepy, scary neighborhood. And they go in, and the club is like no other club you've ever seen. It's bright red brick. Everything is completely candy coated and strange, but blood red. And and you just know it's so. I mean, it's obvious for a lot of reasons where where we're going to go when this happens.
My heart was racing from the beginning of that scene. It was like I thought I was going to have to take medication. I was so tense.
So many close-ups of Pacino's eyes darting around the room that you know something's going to happen, and then the music starts kicking in also.
Yeah. And it's not subtle, and it's completely in your face, and it's telegraphing everything that's coming, and that's a whole change. But it really effectively does feel like he's just entered a new world. Like once that happens, he's in that club. It's a new environment. You've never seen. He's just in a new universe, and that universe, or his old universe, he never gets out of it. And that color remains through the movie ever after that, and pops up again when they kick Leguizamo out of the club. And it starts going crazy bright red walls behind him and stuff. It's like a Giallo movie.
And they also cue you to that scene right before the scene when John Ortiz says, can I ask you a favor?
Oh, yeah.
Because you've been told.
Right.
When somebody asks you a favor, what was the exact line? I have it written down. He says, I'll tell. Favor's going to kill you faster than a bullet.
Yeah,
the line that you hear.
That's great.
And Ortiz asks him for a favor, and then Sean Penn asks him for a favor.
Yeah, I didn't even. I mean, and I think we need to reserve like at least 10 minutes to Sean Penn. We have to, because I mean, just amazing, but. I was engaged enough in the movie just to kind of like not think about the fact that, of course, Sean Penn, and this is going to be spoilers for everything, so anybody listening will have
people should not watch this show if they haven't watched the movie.
But I wasn't anticipating him turning on Carlito, or having. But of course, I mean, when it happens, I'm like, oh, of course. But I don't know, something about it had me engaged enough to not be like too aware of all these pretty obvious things that were coming. Maybe that's just me, and I'm just an easy audience, you know. I'm not.
I knew he was turning by the hair.
How do you mean?
The guy with that hair is not somebody you can rely on.
Oh. Okay, I won't argue with that.
And I say that as the guy with this hair.
Okay. Not generally a reliable look for people, so yeah.
I loved his after he had met with the guy, the Godfather in prison. He meets with him and then comes out and it has to be sick on the way out of writing.
Yeah.
I miss that Sean Penn a lot. I haven't seen that level of thoughtful performance in a while, and I mean it's out there. But what did you both think of it?
Well, I have just nothing but admiration anytime for an actor who's willing to play somebody that unattractive. And I don't mean just physically. I mean just in every way, weak, unlikable, you know, and he went all the way there.
Yeah.
And so many actors in something like in a role like that reserve a little energy to make sure that you know it's not them, that I'm a better person than this guy is.
Yeah,
and he didn't do that in any way.
He put energy into playing a Jew that normally only a non-Jew would put in.
It's like, Sean, you don't have to work that hard. You're right there, man. I just got a lot of. I mean, to watch somebody chew into something that with that much relish and have that, to watch him work with Pacino and to see these two guys have to deal with each other in the room and then have fun together. I felt like, I don't know, it was really like you could see I felt like I like Pacino had to kind of, he paid a little extra attention when Sean Penn was in the room. Like he had to kind of see what was going to happen there.
Yeah, both of them seemed to be they were playing. It seemed like they were playing on a different level with each other a lot of the time.
Can we give some shout outs to some of the guys with the tiny parts that were just this pantheon of New York actors who had these little?
We have to. It's imperative.
Well, James Rebhorn, who he had a bigger role, but just insanely great. Mark Antony, Brian Tarantino, Rocco Sisto, Vincent Pastore, Sandra Santiago, who later went on.
Great.
Yeah. A guy who, there's a guy who I've worked with who has 2 seconds in this movie, and I recognized him. Do you remember a scene in the park where there's a guy with white hair in a weird suit who starts doing a funny dance in the background? And I looked at that and I went, holy crap, that's Bill Whedon. And in the credits, there he was. Bill, you don't even see his face, and I knew it was him. And he's still around doing a lot of like B-horror movies. And then a guy, a really great guy named Jamie Torelli, who plays the cop in the DA's office.
Yes.
And who has that one little scene where he tells them they got him, right?
Yeah.
And Jamie was, you remember a play Dad directed back in like 1973 called Yanks 3, Detroit Nothing, Top of the Seventh?
Yeah.
Jamie was an extra in that play. They had guys playing like baseball players as extras, warming up in the aisles. When was it Tony LoBianco was the pitcher, and they'd have and occasionally I would get to suit up and go into the aisle and play catch with Jamie, and then there he was, just playing with these guys, and so many great New York actors in these small roles. Michael Bolger, Mike Sheehan as the cops.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Did you mention Luis Guzman yet? I
didn't mention Luis Guzman.
Oh my God.
Spectacular.
Oh my God. It was really exciting. It was some of the most exciting New York ensemble work like that. I swear. Bette Bowles has a comment. I swear, like 15 minutes into the movie, I swear I was searching for who the actor was. James Reborn. Yeah. Have you worked with Reborn or Reborn? How do you say that?
I haven't worked.
I don't believe I have. No.
I sat next to him at an audition once and got to tell him how spectacular I thought I was. I think I embarrassed myself.
If you told him how spectacular you thought you were, that would be embarrassing.
I have worked with.
The other way. Yeah.
I have worked with one of the biggest stars of the film, and that is the Steadicam operator. A guy.
Did you really?
Yeah, a guy named Larry McConkey, who is legendary. He's the guy that operated the Steadicam shot in Goodfellas that tracks through the street to the Copacabana. But all of that stuff coming down the steps in the club and following people around, all the stuff on the subway, all the stuff in Grand Central.
And that subway stuff apparently took months and months to do. That chase.
I mean, Carlito's Way almost there'd be no movie without Steadicam, and the amount that it's used in it. And Larry McConkey. Actually, I worked with both the operators on that film. Larry McConkey was operating on and came in and did Steadicam work on Sneaky Pete, and then the other operator was a guy named Craig DeBona, who has become a DP and was the DP on this show, this short-lived show called Tommy. But McConkey is one of those guys. If you're working as an actor or a guest director on a show, that people will come up and kind of quietly let you know, like, I don't know if you know, but this guy's like a legend. He's be aware that he's with us today, because sometimes he just comes on as like a day player sort of thing. But
I know those they're like stars in their own world. A guy like that, I didn't know his name, but I know his work totally. And
incredibly skilled guy.
The thing about him, his shooting, his operating with, I wasn't even thinking about Steadicam during this. It just doesn't feel like, he doesn't seem to use it the way a lot of people do. He really understands. It's just constantly framed so perfectly.
Yeah, and this
never drops that.
Those were the days before there was all the digital stabilization aspect too. I mean, they may have used some stuff, but for the most part, the guys that were doing Steadicam, there was no framing it wider so that later on you can stabilize everything digitally. It was like what you see with and they had to be spot on. And there was also probably maybe by then there was more video feedback. I can't remember by '93, but nothing. It
was archaic back then.
So you have to trust those guys to a huge degree. And he was amazing.
God, I'm wondering. The credits are so long, I can't find his name. But I bet you he must have operated for DePalma a lot, because he uses the same guys a lot. DePalma, I know.
Yeah.
Just to give also, while we're on technical stuff, a shout out to Stephen H. Burnham, who was the cinematographer.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. One of the great pleasures lately for me to kind of dive into the movies we've been talking about on the show so far, which is a lot of late 80s and early 90s stuff. It was like before digital became a thing. It's like the last period where, films shot on film were getting, the technology of it was getting at its most perfected that it would ever get, and to look at how, the image quality, the lush quality of seeing, sometimes I don't think this was 70 mil, but this was, seeing a beautiful, beautifully shot filmed film that has that much technical stuff going on in it. It's just astounding. You think how hard it was to do stuff before all the cameras got light and digital, and to see a movie that has just seamless work throughout. It's fantastic. Richard Silbert also was the production designer, who is.
Was he on Carlito's Way? I should have known that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Richard Silbert, who if anybody's listening and doesn't know who he is, did Chinatown, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Manchurian Candidate, Rosemary's Baby. I mean, just a long list of classic, amazing.
I think he was Catch-22.
Catch-20. Yeah, he was Catch-22.
That's right. That's right.
And I showed this shot earlier, but I want to show it again just because it's an example of his work. And I mean, there's so much amazing stuff, but this shot, this is the first time the palette in the movie changes significantly. Her dress showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And that symbol of a different world, an unobtainable world. It's so stunning, that moment.
You like the fact that the neon across the street is the same color as her dress as well.
Yeah.
And that wasn't digitally put in there. That was actually people putting in a bank of fluorescent lights, 2 blocks away across the street.
And then also that bit player in the background in this scene, the guy at the other table who notices them and their relationship is a stunning little piece of storytelling, because the way it focuses what's happening in that scene, that somebody else in the restaurant is noticing something.
Interesting, right?
It's just really incredible.
There's an amazing shot of her in the back of a cab when she's waiting. They're in a cab together, and Carlito goes out to do something and has her wait.
Yeah.
And there's a shot of her waiting that is like, it's such a, if you just looked at it as a still, you would guess that it was a Brian DePalma film.
Mm-hmm.
Something about it's a little unnaturally wider than it would be from the front seat of the cab, and everything in the background is also equally in focus. He's doing that kind of split depth of field where
Right.
everything is sharp and
Yeah.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff in the film. Really
What
interesting.
was your? Yeah.
But there's also stuff that bumped me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's go.
Get into it. Take off the gloves, man.
Well, since we're talking about the Steadicam stuff, when they're at Grand Central, and he's trying to hide from all the mafia guys that he successfully hides from them. Like they've passed him by, and then but then in order for the visual storytelling to be able to continue in a way that's dynamic, you've got to continue to know where they are. So he comes out of his successful hiding place to go look at where they are and puts himself in plain view of them. And there are times throughout that sequence where it feels like actors are doing things in order to make the shots more interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you that. That I agree with you on that.
You're already safe. You're in a safe place. You hid successfully. Don't lead the Steadicam operator out into a dangerous just going on.
Yeah, I dropped that on the movie before that because they were at Grand Central and they were talking about trains to Miami, and I was like, wait a minute, this is not what's happening.
And it's a sign for sure that I've been doing this too long, that all I could think about was how exhausted everybody must be, because in order to be able to shoot at Grand Central, you knew it had to be at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Over the course of probably 3 weeks.
Probably 3 weeks or more. I know the train sequence, shooting that train sequence apparently was months. I think they had to do a lot of redos, and they apparently went through multiple seasons. So that by the time he was at the end of it, Pacino was running around in like 90-degree weather in that coat. So it was really rough. Yeah.
Here's a question for both of you. Do you think that the narration and the decision to open with the ending of the movie was something that existed in an early draft, or that was scripted originally, or do you think it was something that was found in post-production?
I don't know. I mean, it might be in the book, too. I don't know.
About that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be in the book.
You know, the guy who wrote the books is a New York City criminal courts judge. He's a Supreme Court judge in the criminal courts in New York.
This is a movie show. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. I have friends from law school who with the DA's office who have appeared in his courtroom, and they have many, many, many very good stories about him that they told me over the past couple of days.
Oh.
And then I got a call shortly before the show tonight saying, don't tell that story. Don't tell that story. You can't tell that story. I was like,
oh, bummer.
Come on. But there's a couple of things I can talk about. He had a defendant in front of him. So a lot of the language is coming from stuff this guy knows intimately, and he had a defendant in front of him who had robbed two people on the subway, and had a couple of days before he'd robbed them gotten his face sliced open somehow, and when Edwin, his name is Edwin. The judge's name, the author, Who wrote the books? Edwin.
Everything's
Edwin Torres, the judge. Edwin Torres. He found out that it was actually, he looked down at the indictment and saw that it was 2 counts of robbery, and he said to the guy, "I'm going to max you out consec. I'm going to max you out consec if you get convicted," trying to get a plea out of the guy, and the guy didn't plea. The ADA writing the trial, when he heard the judge say, "I'm going to max you out consec," was about to write on his folder, "Defendant pleads guilty," because anybody hearing that is going to plead guilty, and the guy didn't plead guilty. He went to trial.
right.
And between the time of the robberies and the trial, his scar had turned into a keloid scar, which takes a while, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the defense made a huge deal out of the fact that none of the victims mentioned this huge keloid scar on his face. And my friend got the doctor, called the doctor and told him what was going on, the doctor who'd stitched him up. And the doctor got so angry, he took time off and came down to the courthouse to testify that keloid scar wouldn't have been there 5 days after the robbery. And the guy got convicted.
So there's some justice somewhere.
So just all of that to the point that the guy who wrote the books that this is based on lives in that world, knows these people, which I think is one of the reasons why all of these characters are so rich and different.
My guess is it wasn't David Cope who knew the streets.
Probably not as well as the criminal court judge. Yeah. Probably not. I love that Brigante means bandit too, or brigand. His name, and that monologue he has about the park, about what happened to him in the park.
Yeah.
The story. The only criticism I have of the story is that we're not given anything that gives us a key to why he changed in prison, unless I missed it.
Yeah, it just all seems about the shelf life of people in that life, and kind of coming to grips with the fact that he wanted to turn things around.
Well, there's maybe that one line that he has where he says, "You don't get reformed; you just run out of wind."
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say. Like, I think that's to me what the statement was that it's not that he wouldn't be a criminal again. It's not that he doesn't believe in it as a choice, but he just doesn't have the energy. Like that's the kind of ironic. I mean, that's very DePalma to me. I feel like this is DePalma kind of going into the most sentimental territory he almost ever went into as a director. This is so much about this is a romance.
Yeah.
Which for me, that's probably where I disengaged from the movie the most. I just didn't totally I just didn't necessarily believe that they had a relationship 5 years ago, or that she was enough to have had one before he went to prison. Or I didn't necessarily feel her connection to his world in any way. And she would have been more interested in it, I think, or at least connected to his something about him. And so I just didn't quite buy the love affair or this romance as much as I think they wanted me to.
Well, not to be obvious about stuff, but there's a huge age discrepancy between the two of them.
Huge.
And he's been in the joint for 5 years, and ostensibly they had enough of a relationship before that her heart was broken,
and his too.
He's remembered her all that time and looked her up again. And so, like, there's a part of you going, was she like 16 years old when they first met? And it also just seemed if they were bonded enough to have that connection, it seemed a little hard to believe that he was just sort of caught off guard by the fact that she's a stripper. Like, you know, like I always said Broadway, and I thought you were doing this.
I know.
And given the fact that she's a stripper in a place that's frequented by gangsters, it's also a little. She feels a little naive about what the real story with him is.
The heaviest heroin dealer in New York City for when they were dating. I mean, how you could have to know something was up, you know?
Yeah,
you would.
Yes,
and you'd have to be benefiting from that lifestyle in some fashion, you'd think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a bit of a thing. I mean, I was 100% invested in this movie, kind of from not at the. It took me a minute because the opening with him dying and stuff, and like showing you that he's, you know, the movie starts with him dying, and then the rest of it is kind of like the flashback, and he narrates the story of how he dies.
Yeah,
which is kind of a film noir. It's a film noir convention that I feel like something was cut out. I really do, because
I think scene with the ants.
Well,
go ahead.
Just let me finish my point. That there should have been. I feel like there should have been a lot more of a punch when it's Leguizamo at the end that tags him, that kills him, right? And it's like, that was gonna happen. Okay, of course. But I feel like there was something missing from the suspense of that as well, or more of a aha moment with it. It seemed a little bit perfunctory.
Yeah.
You know?
I also found it interesting in that moment after Leguizamo pops Carlito at the end, and then she is tending to Carlito and saying, you know, please don't die, and Luis Guzman has that moment with it, and Leguizamo pops Guzman, and she doesn't even really react to that. It's like it's almost shooting everybody. Like, she next, you'd think there'd be a part of her like running for cover somewhere, but she's staying in the team with him.
It was a bit odd, but it got into that, like, that's the opera part of it, where it just becomes an opera, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah.
Favorite lines in the movie? Our cousin Peter has a favorite line in the movie that he wrote to me when he heard we were doing this.
Does he? Yeah. Well, what is it?
And I got to tell you that it became my favorite line too.
I like it. I like this line very much myself.
I'll tell you something. Car rental guys don't get killed that much.
I like the line, when you can't see the angles no more, you're in trouble.
Okay.
Here's a question for you. Did you? And I'm like, you know, a devotee of this movie, so I probably see references to it where none of
yes.
it.
The answer to your question is yes.
But the last shot reminded me. I had flashbacks to the movie Seconds, the John Frankenheimer movie. Seconds.
Wow. I thought you were going.
As he's and he sees her dancing on the beach, and
wow.
there's that amazing moment in Seconds where he's on the operating table about to die, and the last image is a guy with a kid on the beach with his daughter on his shoulders, kind of.
Wow.
And I had a strong flashback to that.
I would bet. I mean, I bet you Seconds is a movie DePalma got a lot out of. I would think. To me, it was funny because I saw that. I think Well, I guess 12 Monkeys might have stolen it, because 12, that reminded me a lot of the ending of 12 Monkeys as well. Terry Gilliam's movie, but that was 95, so maybe he stole that from Brian DePalma. Everybody was stealing.
Yeah. Now you had a clip you wanted to show, right, Tony?
Well, I did. If you want to see one, it's kind of my. I feel like it's my favorite scene. I don't have a favorite line of dialogue. Adam is furious.
Adam got really angry.
He doesn't want to talk about this anymore.
No, my dog was acting very peculiarly. I had to handle something.
Well, Tony's got a clip he wants to show.
It's just I don't have a favorite line or anything. I have a few favorite scenes, but this to me is, all things considered, like acting, storytelling, surprising, De Palma at his best, and something that you don't see in movies like this a lot. This scene was just a killer to me. I love this.
Okay. Let's watch it.
I'm reloaded! Okay? Come on in here, motherfuckers! Come on, I'm waiting for you! Well, you ain't coming in? Okay, I'm coming out! Are you up against it now, motherfuckers? I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out! You think you're big time? You're gonna fucking die big time! You ready? Here come the pain!
Nice.
It's just so there's so much going on there. I don't know. I think it's something about how terrified he is.
Yeah.
In that bathroom, you're not used to seeing the hero of the gangster movie. I mean, you're used to people being uptight, you know. And he's certainly nervous in the bathroom in The Godfather, which this is probably a callback to.
Oh, definitely.
Justin, yeah, Patrick Doyle's score is really amazing.
The whole sequence, even his eyes darting around that room reminded me of him in the restaurant in Godfather.
Yeah, absolutely. But just that most of that scene is just covered in that one high angle that slowly comes down and turns into a shot, and how the lights change. It's so theatrical. It's so fantastic how he orchestrates that. Or I'm sure it took a whole bunch of people to do it, or who conceived of it. But how it really becomes really abstract and surreal. Kind of like reminds you of like a Nicholas Winding Refn, you know, that kind of modern take on stuff that he's doing. But you're seeing the same thing back in the early 90s that was just as punchy and interesting. But I just love Pacino's terror in there. You know, he's not cool. It's not Scarface. He thinks he's going to die.
Yeah. And
he's bluffing. Like, he doesn't know what's going to happen when he opens that door for real. I just thought that was riveting, man. I love that.
Yeah, being out of bullets is a big theme in this movie.
That's right. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Other than the Sean Penn thing at the end, where else?
Well, in that scene, in this scene.
Yeah.
because he realizes he's got nothing in his clip anymore. That's sort of why he puts the big bluff on, is because he's going out there with an empty gun.
Right. Well, it's good
which
stuff.
It probably says something about my life that's just particularly resonant for me right now.
I like that you just snapped into those, that you know exactly why, and that you snapped into a very vivid description of what it's like to be in a gunfight. That's a little unnerving.
Well, listen, there's a lot about me you guys don't know.
Let's keep it that way then, because I'm getting uncomfortable.
I don't know if this is the forum to get into it, but
well, you probably learned some of that stuff doing Sons of Anarchy when you were directing that. There was there was probably lots of gunplay there.
I thought we were talking about an empty gun as a metaphor, but we don't have to go there.
Well, there's that too. Listen, I feel that given the way this evening has gone, Matthew, I feel like you have a shot with Penelope Ann Miller again.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Yeah.
You might have talked up your performance a little more, maybe. I'm just saying.
Well, I showed the picture of her in the green dress and talking about how much I loved it, and that it's the best shot in the movie, and Okay, well, Penelope, if you're out there,
it tells you how much time has gone by when you see this movie. That all he needs to make all of the rest of his life's dreams come true is $70,000.
I like how low those stakes are, though. I love that. It's great.
But sort of like now, like that means we can pay our rent for 3 months.
Question.
Yeah, really. Well, I think I've covered all of my notes. The shot from the cut from Penn to the cockroach. That's some nice storytelling.
Yeah.
Subtle.
Very subtle. Well, there's a lot of subtlety in this movie. The Dutch angles, like every time something's going really badly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's DePalma. How many DePalma movies have you seen, Matthew? Are you a DePalma aficionado?
I'm not an aficionado, but I've seen several of them, but I'm not an aficionado.
Are you an apologist or just somebody who has no opinion?
I'm an apologist after this movie. I liked this movie. Okay. I would actually watch this movie again.
What was your
not right away, but eventually.
What was your did you have a De Palma movie that you kind of fell for and or did you like him from the beginning, or did you admire?
I wasn't crazy about him from the beginning.
How about you, Adam?
He is. I have huge respect for him, but he's always been considered one of a group of directors in the company of other people who I've been more affected by their work. Let's put it. Scarface. I love Scarface for all of the reasons that we're talking about. Enjoying this movie, and it was the first time I thought Pacino just went completely ape shit in a film, and I love it for that.
Yeah.
One of the things I felt.
Yeah, take a good look at a bad guy.
Yeah. But one of the things I felt about this film. But one of the things I felt about this film was that in terms of all of the style of it, that's very sort of what you might call obvious or heavy-handed. This was the first time I felt like I got De Palma, when I had that realization at the beginning where it was an opera, and I said, "Oh, he's not being obvious and heavy-handed because he doesn't know how to do anything else. This is a choice of a kind of story." And then once I bought into that, then I was just able to enjoy it. The same way you'd say, "Oh, I'm picking up a romance novel, and this author wanted to write a romance novel. That's what they set out to do.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he's setting out to do a particular thing, and he does it really effectively.
Yeah.
And so I ended up loving all of the Dutch angles. I ended up loving that very odd, complicated shot that we see twice of her turning upside down and then the camera moving and it being a right side up close up of him on the gurney at the end, which is very much draws attention to itself.
For sure.
But is aware that it's drawing attention to itself. So I ended up loving it.
And it accomplishes something. It does put you in a very specific point of view. It's not unmotivated that those shots.
Right.
It creates. It does put you in the head of somebody that's in their last moment somehow.
Yeah. And I just have to say again how amazing, incredibly amazing, I thought Penelope Ann Miller's performance was.
She was wonderful. You should have said that earlier in the show, maybe. I don't know. Make it sound like you were doing that earlier. If you're listening, Penelope, he really liked your work in the movie. I hope you know that.
He thought your audition for Biloxi Blues was amazing.
He's surprised you get it, or did you get it? I don't know, but
and I'm sorry. I'm deeply sorry.
Whatever.
He's learned his lesson. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. 40 years later. Well, what movie are we going to watch next week, gents? Wow.
Movie that occurred to me that might be fun, but it's up to, and is this something we should be discussing here on within the body of the show?
I don't see why not.
We have no rules.
When's the last time you guys saw Little Drummer Girl?
Wow, that's a great idea.
Long time ago.
George Royal, Eaton.
Who directed that again? Who directed
George Royal.
George Roy Hill? My God! Oh man, I'd love to see that. Is that available?
Yeah,
I'm checking right now. Is it on Little Drummer Girl?
That's a great idea, man. That would be great.
1984's Little Drummer Girl is available on Amazon Prime.
There you go.
Or Vudu, or Google Play Movies, or YouTube. So
we don't receive money from them. We just want people to know where these films are available if they want to see them.
Oh, Babu Subramanian is watching the show.
See, thank you. I gotta say, Babu, thank you for bringing up Carrie. Because we can't talk about Palma without talking about what the roots of this guy. It's all about horror movies, right? Yeah. He started out as the most reviled. Everybody called him a sleaze bag. He was reviled, but he made some of the most inventive bravura horror movies in this country. And being a big horror nut, I got into him pretty early. So movies like Sisters and
Sisters was
unbelievable. I mean, he made these little, he started out very small, low budget, and he did remarkable things for very little money. And then Carrie, thank you, Justin. Phantom of Paradise is an extraordinarily strange movie and amazing. But then Carrie gets into territory that's opera. That's where it starts becoming opera. Yeah. And he has that vibe throughout the rest of his movies. And so I remember because a lot of his movies were on Cinemax late at night when cable was first starting up, and they were movies that as a kid you weren't really supposed to see, but you'd sneak in and see them anyway. And his movies were got a lot of sleazy stuff in them.
Tony, Mom's listening. She's listening. She just heard that.
I'm 52 years old, man. I don't care anymore.
Okay.
I'm old enough to talk
We
about
we
Dress
also
to Kill.
got
If I want to talk about Dress to Kill,
No, I'm just saying she knows that now that you stayed up when you weren't supposed to and crept into the room.
They didn't care. They wanted me to have an education, and I was watching mostly art films, but occasionally there was a Brian DePalma movie, Dress to Kill or Body Double. And you're embarrassed to say that you like these things, but
I'm not.
Now, Noah Baumbach totally he capped it because he made a documentary about De Palma, and then Noah Baumbach's a huge De Palma fan. So I'm sorry, mic drop.
There was a serious French film publication that said that Carlito's Way was in their estimation the best film to come out of the 90s.
Wow.
And the other thing I want to give a shout out to De Palma for was his recognition of talent. I mean, he gave De Niro some of his earliest roles in film. Sissy Spacek in Carrie was like a discovery for everyone. Like
she worked in the art department. She was working in production when he discovered her for that. And she fought to do it. She fought for that audition, and he didn't want to audition her, but she made that happen and convinced.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's brilliant in that movie, as is Piper Laurie is incredible performance. Again, operatic, like really big, but I just have this appreciation for him. He seems to have fun, and he works with a lot of the same technical people. And when you see him working with, like, he'd worked with Sean Penn before, he'd worked with Pacino before, and when you see actors like that returning to work again, you got to feel like he probably runs a good show. Like, it might be hard to do, but I haven't heard that he's an unfair guy.
I would totally work with him twice.
Well, come on, we need health insurance. I'd work for him anytime he called me. I'm not talking about the movies of his I didn't like.
No, he worked. There was a chart I saw on De Palma of actors that he worked with multiple times. It was like the Coen brothers in that respect, where he worked with a lot of the same people in 3, 4, 5 films.
Yeah. Always seems like an indication that it's got to be a pretty good working experience.
Yeah.
Well, this was an awesome conversation. I think Little Drummer Girl is a great idea.
Yeah, definitely we should go there. And it's great to finally have this show be the way it should be.
Oh,
it's taken us long enough, but we got our shit together. No, it's true.
Listen, if you complain and guilt people enough, they'll eventually include you in things.
Or they'll eventually show up on your show and talk to you.
Yeah, and I have to apologize. I have to apologize for something. I neglected in redoing the credit sequence. I didn't redo the end of the show banner, but I will get that done tomorrow. So forgive me.
It's really not a question of my forgiving you. You'll just have to deal with my representation.
Okay. Well, listen, everybody out there who's watching, please, if you enjoyed this show, give it a like. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and when you do, hit the bell icon so you get notified of upcoming live streams. And also, I run another show on Mondays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, tips and techniques for actors, authors, and storytellers, where I interview different people in show business and the writing business and the theatrical business. And my guest this coming Monday is going to be the fabulous Amy Aquino, who is on Bosch right now and was in Working Girl and on Everybody Loves Raymond. And I've had the incredible privilege of playing her love interest twice. We have a great time together on stage. So she'll have a lot of great stories and a lot of great advice. So please tune in for that. And join us next week. What?
I thought you played her husband.
I played her husband in one thing and her love. That's right. Only once did I play her love interest. The other time I played her husband. Yeah. Wow, that's true. That's right. Yeah.
Is there, Adam? Are you up to anything that you'd like to promote? Are you on a social media platform that you would like to say that you do design for home, like cooking shows or some kind of a design? No.
I'm up to my eyeballs in COVID related hobbies and crafts.
Excellent. Okay. Good.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you all next week, we hope. Good night, everybody.
Can't wait. Good night.
So long, guys.
Good night.